Welcome back to Grassroots Media. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Greene County Express Steve and Gregg Show, where we cover everything on the hardwood with the South Greene Lady Rebels basketball team. As always, I'm joined here with head coach Steve and Gregg. Coach, how are we doing this evening?
Good. How's Tyler?
I'm doing well. It's sunny. It's 60 outside. It's starting to finally feel like spring now. It's my favorite time of the year. How about you?
Yeah. Start seeing things to do around the house when it's warm like this. So, the good thing is we're still in the gym and for right now, and hopefully we'll be in here for a little bit extended time. I hope. Hope we don't end this thing too early. Then it's back to the honeydews.
Let's talk about the district tournament a little bit. Went up to Boone on, I believe it was Friday and Monday was your action, or Thursday and Monday was your action. And you took on Chucky Doak first, ended up playing Hampton in the championship game, beat Chucky Doak to advance, but ended up losing to Hampton. Talk about the tournament, take me through your experience in this year's tournament, and take me through what you expect going forward.
Chucky Doak was a much needed win to get us to the championship. Felt like we had a good week leading up to that. Was able to implement some things on the defensive side of the ball, and I think we held them to 7 points for the longest time. And then they scored 4 late, under a minute to go at half. So we held Chucky Doak to 11 points at half. So that was a good thing to do, was to come out and be the enforcer early. But as the game went on, we got a little bit more relaxed on defense. But you definitely wanted to come out and throw the first punches, and that got us a little lead that we was able to sustain the win and move on into Hampton. Anytime you play somebody multiple times, it's harder and harder each time. But to play Chucky Doak 4 times in a county rival, a conference game, and in the big-time environment of the tournament, it was huge implications to get that 4th win against them.
Did it kind of feel like a huge weight was lifted off your shoulders when you finally stepped off the court during that game? Because I know you talked about how there's always a lot of pressure going into that game with the streak that's involved, playing a team 4 times, having to beat them a 4th time, changing strategies. You assume you know how they might come out, but you don't really know how they come out. Is there always a huge weight lifted off your shoulders after a big game like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always stressful because we're talking about teenagers, and we're putting all of our trust and into teenagers to go win a ball game. All of our trust is in them, and in the hours of preparation that leads up to that moment. But it's very nerve-wracking. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You have to rely on those teenagers to get that job done.
Then you walked into the Hampton game on Monday night. You knew it was going to be a battle. It was a battle all the way up until the end, too. Came out on the losing end of it, and they win the championship their first year within the new conference. So talk about that game a little bit.
It had some good spots and some bad spots. It was much lived up to the anticipation. It was aggressive. It was intense. The fans got into it. Felt like we were playing really good the first half, and then we kind of let up there in the third quarter. They made a good run there with a couple schemes in the press that got them back in it. I felt like at 41-34, we were starting to maybe blow the lid off and get a stop and maybe push that thing up double digits. But they hit a big 3 to cut it to 4, and then we had 2 untimely turnovers. Next thing I know, it's tied up right there in that little stretch going into fourth quarter. Part of that, too, was when I lost, some of the adhesive on the floor. Emma rolls her ankle again and wasn't able to return. And, losing a senior guard with that experience was huge at that point of the game. And then we also had another senior with Haley Brooks, was plagued with foul trouble that night. So it was frustrating when we're getting heated up, and, our senior captain, floor leader, generals are not out there, and just got away from us. And even though we lost that close game, we had opportunities. We shot it poorly from the foul line. I think we went 1 for 6 there in the fourth quarter. So the referees thought we were trying to extend the game and foul, and you're in there trying to get the ball and get it tied up. But bottom line, Hampton physically outwhipped us. It became a battle of brunt, and we didn't step up to that challenge. And I felt like they were the more aggressor, and they were rewarded for it.
I know something you said right as soon as the game was over. I think the first thing you said in our post-game interview was that you asked the girls if there was anything they did that you didn't expect, and they all said no. You knew what to expect coming in, and I think you had said it yourself that it was one of those things where it felt like they wanted it more in the end, closing down the final stretch.
Absolutely. We asked the girls, it's frustrating to lose one like that on, just the intangibles of something, where it looks like they want it more, or they become more physical, and we don't take that approach and match that physicality. But we knew everything they were going to do. They didn't run a play that surprised us. It was just the same old get up and manhandle you and press you and try to spook you into turnovers and just kind of buffalo, sports bully kind of thing. And our girls didn't match that intensity. And hopefully we can learn from that. We've played a very brutal schedule this year. I was looking on the way to a meeting today. Our losses are not terrible. About 90% of them or more came to conference champions, or they were playing in their conference championship. I mean, I can go through all of them.
I know we talked about it last week, I think off camera. A lot of your losses were to the season champions, the team that ended up winning the regular season standings.
Yep.
And you look at some of the teams off the top of your head, like we talked about, Greeneville ended up losing it, but they were in their championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Crockett, same way. Dobbins-Bennett, same way. Mm-hmm. Hampton, of course, was in that championship game with you and caused one of those losses. So a lot of those, you're correct. A lot of it came down to that. I don't know much past Knoxville, but you can expect Upperman was in theirs also.
Yeah, Upperman, Knox Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
DB, Crockett, Hampton. I mean, it's a brutal schedule, and hopefully what we have done to this point will prepare us for the regional tournament. So.
And the good thing is you get that one at home. We didn't mention that after you beat Chucky Doak, but that gave you one more opportunity to play here at home in the opening round of the regional tournament. I know the last few years that I've worked here with Grassroots Media and that I've been fortunate enough to cover your games, you've had those 2 games the last 2 years at home, and you get a third straight one now, this time against Oneida. Not speaking about Oneida too much, but how important is it to be able to get that home playoff game to open up the regional?
It's huge just to play one more time in front of your home crowd, and for seniors to step on that floor one more time and play in our school, just the pride and the sense that it has. And plus, it takes a lot of the worry out when the kids are at home. You don't have to load a bus and travel off and make all these extra plans, but it's still going to have a lot of nerves tied to the game. It's going to be one of the tougher first-round regional games that I can remember in a while. Oneida's going to be a very tough physical team. They bring a lot of intensity. I've been watching some film the last 2 days, but they're coached very disciplined. They don't look like they get rattled. And I was looking at their schedule. They played a tough schedule too. Mm-hmm. We're 20-10. They're 18-10. 5 of their losses have came to Alcoa and Gatlinburg, which is a very tough district. 2 other losses came to Clark Range, who's always a single-A powerhouse. Pickett County, another strong single-A contender to possibly win state this year. So they've not had a cakewalk in their schedule. So there's 8 of their losses right there. So I've done some of the homework. But they just like a very sound, disciplined team. Coach West does a good job with Oneida. His daughter is a very good ball player. They run a lot of sets for her. But I was just impressed with how they move on defense. They're going to bring a full court press, and they're going to fall back and play some aggressive trapping zone. And some other coaches said they played man, but some of the films that I've seen within the conference, it's hard to match up with GP and Alcoa.
It is.
So, maybe they do play more man. I just got to get in there and sharpen my axe and talk to more people and get more film to kind of see how they would combat us. But, that what they do so far on film is very well organized and very disciplined.
One last thing we'll talk about pertaining to the district tournament. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'd like to give them the credit they deserve. Is you had a lot of members once again join the all-conference, all-tournament teams, and that were awarded at the end of the year with a few awards. I know Haley Brooks and Macy Henry from Hampton were co-player of the year.
That's correct.
I know Dwayne Humphrey from Hampton was named Coach of the Year. And then when you look back at some of the all-conference and all-tournament members, you'll have a few players from your team. If this will load, it's taking a while. Coach Hosey's office doesn't have the best service in here, so we'll blame that on him. Going to the all-conference team, you had, of course, Haley Brooks, who was co-player of the year, was also named to that. Ava Clark, Courtney Bailey, and Riley Gregg. And then going down to the all-tournament team, you had Haley Brooks, Emma Cutshaw, and Courtney Bailey. You had a few of those who joined each teams, and then you had a few others in Greene County also winning awards, with the underclassmen of the year going to Joey Shipley. So you had a lot of girls named to those all-conference and all-tournament teams. How proud of you for them to be able to step up and receive those awards at the end of the night.
Yeah, I mean, that's well deserving, for something the kids will look back on one day. But it's been that way all year. It could have been even more kids added to that list. It just depends on whose night it is. Whose turn is it to step up and carry us. And that's what we talked a little bit about our team yesterday in practice. It's the fact that we don't have one Miss Basketball or one person that we have to go throw the ball 20 times a game. And, it's also a nemesis sometimes that they're over, unselfish. They make extra passes when sometimes you look for them to take the 8-footer, but they try to kick it out to someone who may be a little bit more open. So that's always good in a team sport to see that they do play like a team and not always individualistics.
So the district tournament comes to a close now, moving on to the regional tournament. We talked about Oneida a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit more on the second half, but we got to cut to a break first. Make sure we pay the bills, so we'll be right back in just a minute here on Grassroots Media. Welcome back to Grassroots Media. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Greene County Express Steve and Gregg Show, where we cover everything on the hardwood with the Lady Rebels basketball team. As always, I'm joined here with South Greene head coach Steve and Gregg. So we talked about your opponent in the opening round of the regional tournament with Oneida coming in here to play you on Friday night. Spoke about them a little bit, spoke about how great it is playing at home, but let's talk about the opposite region a little bit. We've talked about, or the opposite district a little bit that you'll see in the regional tournament.
Yeah.
We've talked about your own district enough this year, we'll say that, with Hampton 3 times, Chuckey Oak 4 times, Johnson County and Happy Valley twice, and West Greene twice. So let's talk about the opposite district. Alcoa, Gatlinburg, Pittman, Oneida, and Austin East. Those are the 4 teams that have advanced. The two that are on your side, of course, Oneida. If you were to beat them, you would advance to play the winner of Alcoa and Happy Valley. So tell me what you expect in this regional tournament going forward now.
It's one of the tough regions there is in the state because you've got Gatlinburg-Pittman, Alcoa, who had a barn burner last night. GP's won both times on the season, but Alcoa gets them last night at Alcoa in the district championship. So that kind of threw a wrench into everybody's miracle bracket, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I was ecstatic because I feel like GP possibly is the best team. They've been ranked high 1 and 2 all year in our division. They're 29-3. Alcoa, I think they're 19-11, but they play a very physical game. I've seen both of them in person, and when I woke up yesterday morning, I thought, well, if we get past Oneida, we've got a tough GP. But the way things work out now, if we can get by Oneida, we would have to play Alcoa. And I'm not, saying that Oneida is going to be anything easy. I looked at one film already, and they played Alcoa to 7. And Alcoa just brings so much of what happened in the district championship with us. Just so much pressure all over the place. And they got the big 6'2", 6'3", 5' girl. They got Bailey, the point guard, who's so quick we couldn't trap her in the phone booth. And they've got a good supporting cast to go with her. You look at GP, you got Miss Basketball finalist Maddie Newman. You've got Glasper, Burns, Stannett. I mean, just names that have been there. Seems like forever.
3rd year now.
Yep. And so we knew that it was going to be a very battle-tested region. But this first one's got me on edge with Oneida. Like I told you in the first part of the show, they do a lot of things good. And they don't panic a lot. They don't look like they get spooked. And, they just moved up from single A, who they were very traditionally rich single A. You know who they are. And they bring that single A mentality, with, maybe 1 or 2 girls that can post up and have an inside presence, but the majority of their offense is going to revolve around inside-out 3 points. And they like to shoot the 3 ball a lot. But I'm more impressed, I think, at the defensive side. They fly around all over the place. So it's not going to be easy. I don't know if I had to pick, would you rather go to Alcoa and play at Gatlinburg or play an Alcoa on their floor? If I had my choice, it wouldn't be either.
Yeah.
But you got to play them and go through them all to advance to the next season. So it's like I told the girls standing in practice. One of the last things I said yesterday is we don't understand, but there's always a reason that things happen and the way they pan out. And that's why you play the game tournament time. Anything can happen.
And we've seen that already with a few of the outcomes with a few of the boys and girls district tournaments where outcomes like Alcoa and GP, some on Alcoa's side would have probably expected that to happen, but a lot of people outside of Alcoa's circle probably expected Gatlinburg-Pittman to win with the way it's been the last few years with Gatlinburg being on top and taking the 2 regular season wins. But you never know when it comes tournament time, and that's the beauty of it all. And hopefully we come in here next week and we talk about you being in the regional championship game next week also. But that's it for this week's interview, Coach. Once again, I want to thank you for sitting down with me. Thank you all for watching this week's edition of the Greene County Express Steve and Gregg Show. Look forward to seeing y'all next time here on Grassroots Media.